The night Lauren Whitmore planned to celebrate 2 years of love, she found her boyfriend in bed with another woman. Shattered and humiliated, she made a decision that would change everything. She hired a stranger for one night, not for pleasure, but to prove she wasn't broken. But the man who walked through that hotel room door wasn't who she thought he was. He was a billionaire CEO who'd entered the wrong room, and their accidental meeting would set off a chain of events neither could have predicted. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The apartment key turned smoothly in the lock, just as it had 100 times before. Lauren Whitmore balanced the paper bag of Thai takeout in one arm and cradled a bottle of Merlot in the other, the same wine they'd shared on their first date exactly 2 years ago. She'd left work early, stopped by his favorite restaurant, and even worn the navy dress he'd once said made her eyes look like sapphires. Everything was perfect. The hallway was dark, which struck her as odd since Marcus usually kept the lights on when he was home. His car had been in the parking garage, so she knew he was here. Maybe he'd fallen asleep. He'd mentioned being tired lately, working late hours on some big project at the firm. "Marcus?" she called out, nudging the door closed with her hip. "I brought dinner, the good stuff from—" The words died in her throat. From the bedroom, she heard it. A woman's laugh, low, intimate, followed by Marcus's voice saying something she couldn't quite make out, then more laughter. The wine bottle slipped from her grip, but she caught it at the last second, her reflexes somehow still functioning even as her brain struggled to process what she was hearing. The takeout bag crinkled loudly in the sudden silence that followed. "Marcus?" she called again, her voice smaller now, uncertain. Footsteps. Hurried, clumsy. Then Marcus appeared in the bedroom doorway wearing only his boxers, his hair disheveled, his face flushed. Behind him, Lauren could see rumpled sheets and a woman's red blouse draped over the bedside lamp. "Lauren?" His eyes went wide. "What are you doing here?" The question was so absurd, so perfectly backwards, that for a moment she couldn't speak. What was she doing here? In the apartment where she'd spent countless nights over the past 2 years? On their anniversary? "What am I—" She couldn't finish. Her eyes moved past him to the woman now sitting up in his bed, clutching the sheet to her chest. She was blonde, petite, with smudged mascara and an expression that flickered between guilt and defiance. "Oh, God," the woman said. "Marcus, you said you were single." "I am single," Marcus said quickly, then seemed to realize what he'd just said. "I mean, Lauren, we need to talk." The bag of Thai food slipped from her fingers this time, containers splitting open as they hit the floor, red curry sauce spreading across the hardwood like blood. Lauren stared at it, oddly focused on this small disaster instead of the larger one unfolding around her. "You're single," she repeated, her voice flat. "That's not— Look, this isn't how I wanted to do this." Marcus ran his hand through his hair, that gesture she'd always found endearing but now seemed calculated, rehearsed. "Things between us haven't been working for a while. You know that." "I don't know that." Her hands were shaking. The wine bottle was still somehow in her grip. "I thought we were celebrating tonight. 2 years, Marcus. I got your favorite food. I left work early. That's the problem." He stepped toward her and she instinctively stepped back. "You're always doing things like this, making these grand gestures, and I never asked for any of it. You're too much, Lauren. Too intense. Too clingy." The words hit her like physical blows. Too much. Too clingy. These were things he'd never said, never even hinted at. When had she become too much? When had caring become a crime? "Who is she?" Lauren heard herself ask. "That doesn't matter. It matters to me." "Her name is Vanessa," the blonde woman said from the bedroom, her voice carrying an edge now. "And I'm not the first. In case you were wondering." The room tilted. Lauren gripped the doorframe to steady herself. "Shut up, Vanessa," Marcus hissed. "No, she deserves to know." Vanessa stood up, wrapping the sheet around herself like a toga. "He's been seeing me for 4 months, and before me there was someone named Rachel. He showed me her pictures on his phone by accident." "Get out," Marcus said to Vanessa. "Gladly." She gathered her clothes quickly, dressing without modesty or shame. As she pushed past Lauren, she paused. "You're better off. He's mediocre in every way that counts. Then she was gone, her heels clicking down the hallway, the apartment door slamming behind her. Lauren and Marcus stood in silence, the ruins of their anniversary dinner seeping into the floor between them. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way," Marcus said finally, and he actually sounded sincere. That somehow made it worse. "How long?" Lauren asked. "How long have you been cheating?" He shrugged. "Does it matter?" "Yes." "About 6 months with different people. But I was checked out of this relationship a long time before that. You must have felt it too." She wanted to scream that no, she hadn't felt it, that until 10 minutes ago she'd been planning their future, thinking about whether they'd spend Christmas with his family or hers, wondering if he might propose on New Year's Eve. But the scream wouldn't come. Instead, there was just this horrible, expanding numbness. "I need you to leave," Marcus said. Lauren blinked. "What?" "This is my apartment. I need you to leave." "You're—" She laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "You're kicking me out?" "I'll mail you anything you've left here, but right now I need space to process this." Process this. As if he were the victim. As if he hadn't just destroyed 2 years with his betrayal and cruelty. Lauren set the wine bottle on the hallway table with exaggerated care. Then she picked up her purse and walked toward the door, her legs moving automatically, carrying her away from this nightmare. "For what it's worth," Marcus called after her, "I did care about you. Once." She didn't turn around, didn't give him the satisfaction of a response. She simply walked out of the apartment and his life, closing the door softly behind her. The elevator ride down felt endless. Lauren stared at her reflection in the polished metal doors. Navy dress, careful makeup, hairstyled just so. She looked like someone heading to a celebration. She looked like an idiot. When she reached her car, she sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, unable to make her hands work the keys, unable to make sense of anything. The parking garage was nearly empty, fluorescent lights humming overhead, and she was alone. Too much. Too clingy. The words echoed in her head, mixing with images she couldn't unsee. Marcus in his boxers, that woman in his bed, the casual cruelty in his eyes when he'd said he'd been checked out for months. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Simone. "How's the anniversary dinner going? Did he finally propose? I need details." Lauren stared at the message until the screen went dark. She couldn't answer, couldn't type out what had just happened. If she wrote it down, it would be real. Instead, she started the car and drove. She didn't plan to go to Simone's apartment, but that's where she ended up. Her best friend took one look at her face and pulled her inside. "What happened?" Lauren opened her mouth to explain, but nothing came out except a sob. Then another. Then she was crying so hard she could barely breathe, and Simone was holding her, guiding her to the couch, murmuring comforting words that didn't penetrate the fog of humiliation and grief. When the tears finally stopped, Lauren told her everything, every horrible detail. "I'm going to kill him," Simone said when she finished. "I'm serious. I'm going to kill him and make it look like an accident." "Don't." Lauren's voice was hoarse. "He's not worth it." "You're right. He's not worth it. But you are." Simone grabbed her hand. "Listen to me. This isn't about you being too much. This is about him being too little, too small, too cowardly, too selfish to appreciate what he had." "Then why do I feel so broken?" "Because you're human, and he's a monster." Simone stood up. "Get your shoes. We're going out." "I don't want to go out." "Too bad. You're not sitting here drowning in misery. We're going to a bar, you're going to have a drink, and you're going to remember that you're Lauren fucking Whitmore, and you deserve so much better than that waste of oxygen." Lauren let herself be pulled to her feet, let Simone lead her back to the car, let her best friend drive them to a sleek hotel bar downtown that she'd never been to before. The kind of place where the lighting was intentionally dim and the cocktails cost more than dinner. They sat at the bar, and Simone ordered them both something strong. "To new beginnings," Simone said, raising her glass. Lauren couldn't bring herself to toast. She just drank, feeling the alcohol burn down her throat, hoping it would numb the ache in her chest. 3 drinks in, Simone leaned close. "I have an idea." "Please, no more ideas tonight." "No, listen. What if you just prove to yourself that you're not broken? that you can be wanted. Lauren laughed bitterly. How? By downloading a dating app and swiping until someone validates me. No. Simone pulled out her phone, scrolling through something. What if you hired someone, just for tonight? Someone professional who won't hurt you, won't judge you, and will remind you that you're attractive and desirable. You're suggesting I hire an escort. I'm suggesting you take control. Make this night about you, not him. One night where you get to call the shots, where someone treats you the way you deserve to be treated. That's insane. Is it? Or is it the sanest thing you could do right now? Simone showed her a website on her phone. Professional, discreet, exactly what she'd described. Look, I know a woman who used this service after her divorce. She said it helped her feel human again. No strings, no expectations, just kindness. Lauren stared at the screen. She should say no. This was reckless, dangerous, completely unlike her. But then again, being careful and cautious had gotten her a cheating boyfriend and a shattered heart. Maybe it was time to be reckless. How does it work? She heard herself ask. 2 hours later, Lauren was sitting alone in a hotel room 3 floors above the bar. Simone had helped her book the room and arrange everything, then hugged her tightly before leaving her to wait. You sure about this? Simone had asked one last time. No, Lauren had admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. Now she sat on the edge of the pristine bed, still wearing her anniversary dress, wondering what the hell she was doing. The room was nice. The hotel was upscale, everything tasteful and expensive. A bottle of champagne sat chilling in an ice bucket, courtesy of Simone. For courage, she'd said. Lauren poured herself a glass with shaking hands and drank it too quickly. Her phone showed 11:47 p.m. He was supposed to arrive at midnight. She didn't even know his name. The service had just confirmed someone would be here, someone appropriate and professional. She'd paid half the fee up front, an amount that made her wince but also felt oddly empowering. This was her choice, her decision. At 11:53, she almost called it off. She reached for her phone, ready to cancel, to run back to her car and pretend this had never happened. Then she thought of Marcus's face when he'd called her too much, too clingy, too intense. She set the phone down. At 11:58, she heard footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside her door. There was a pause, the sound of a keycard sliding into the lock. Then the door opened. Lauren stood up, her heart hammering, ready to face the stranger she'd hired to make her feel whole again. The man who walked through the door was not what she expected. He was tall, probably mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit that even her untrained eye recognized as custom-tailored. Dark hair, strong jawline, eyes that were striking even in the dim light. A deep brown that seemed to see right through her. He looked exhausted, like he'd just finished a marathon, and there was a phone pressed to his ear. I understand, Richard, but the meeting ran late. Just email me the revised contracts and I'll review them in the morning. He was walking into the room as he spoke, setting down a leather briefcase, pulling at his tie with his free hand. Yes, fine. We'll discuss it at 9. He hung up and finally seemed to notice Lauren standing there. They stared at each other. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't realize anyone was... Then he stopped, looked around the room, looked at the door he'd just come through, then back at her. This is room 1847, correct? He asked. Yes, Lauren said. Damn it. He pulled out his phone, checking something. They gave me the wrong room number. I'm supposed to be in 1847, but this is... He looked at the number on the inside of the door. This is 1847. No, this is definitely 1847. I'm in 1847. They stared at each other again, both confused. I'm Andrew Cole, he said finally. I had a late meeting downtown, and the hotel booked me a room for the night. I'm sorry for barging in like this. There must have been a mix-up with the key cards. Andrew Cole. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Lauren's mind was too foggy with champagne and emotion to place it. This wasn't the man she'd hired. This was just some businessman who'd been given the wrong room key. I'll go down to the front desk and get this sorted out, he said, already turning toward the door. Wait, Lauren said. He paused. She didn't know why she'd stopped him, didn't know what she was going to say. But looking at him, this stranger who'd accidentally walked into her carefully planned disaster of a night, she made a decision that was even more reckless than hiring an escort. Stay, she said. I'm sorry? I mean, if you don't mind, just for a little while. The words were tumbling out now, fueled by champagne and heartbreak and the crushing loneliness of this entire horrible day. I'm supposed to be meeting someone, but I don't think they're coming, and I don't want to be alone right now. It was probably the saddest, most pathetic thing she'd ever said. She expected him to make an excuse and leave, to report her to hotel security, to do anything except what he did, which was set his briefcase down and study her with those deep brown eyes, seeing everything, the smudged mascara she thought she'd fixed, the tight grip she had on the champagne glass, the desperation she was trying so hard to hide. Okay, he said quietly. I'll stay. Lauren felt something break inside her chest, not in a bad way, but like a dam giving way, letting out all the pressure that had been building. She sat down heavily on the bed, and Andrew Cole, this stranger who owed her nothing, pulled a chair over and sat down across from her. Bad day? He asked. She laughed, and it turned into a sob. The worst. Do you want to talk about it? You don't want to hear about my problems. Actually, he said, loosening his tie and leaning back in the chair, I've just spent 3 hours in a boardroom arguing about merger acquisitions. Hearing about someone else's problems sounds perfect right about now. So she told him everything. About Marcus, about the cheating, about being called too much and too clingy, about the humiliation of being kicked out of his apartment on their anniversary, about the reckless decision to hire someone for the night, to prove to herself that she wasn't broken. Andrew listened without interrupting, without judgment, his expression growing darker as the story unfolded. He's an idiot, Andrew said when she finished. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it to be nice. I'm saying it because it's true. Anyone who would cheat on someone who clearly loved them, who would blame them for caring too much, who would kick them out after being caught, that person is an idiot and a coward. Lauren wiped at her eyes. I thought there was something wrong with me, that I was too intense, too... There's nothing wrong with you, Andrew interrupted firmly. There's something wrong with him, and I know you don't believe that right now, but you will. Eventually. How do you know? He was quiet for a moment. My wife died 3 years ago. Lauren's breath caught. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I've been sitting here crying about my boyfriend when you... Don't. He held up a hand. Pain isn't a competition. What you're going through matters, regardless of what anyone else has experienced. What happened, if you don't mind me asking? Car accident, sudden. 1 minute she was here, the next she wasn't. His voice was steady, but Lauren could hear the old grief underneath. We have a daughter. She was 3 when it happened. She's 6 now. That must be so hard. It is. But it gets easier. Not better, exactly, but easier. You learn to carry it differently. He met her eyes. And eventually, you learn that the people who hurt you don't define you. Their actions say everything about them and nothing about you. They talked for hours after that. Andrew told her about his daughter, Emma, how she loved dinosaurs and hated bedtime, how she asked impossible questions and gave the best hugs, how he was trying to balance being a single parent with running a company, how most days he felt like he was failing at both. Lauren told him about her job in marketing, about her dreams of maybe running her own agency someday, about how she'd always played it safe until tonight. I don't think hiring someone for the night counts as playing it safe, Andrew said with a slight smile. Well, I didn't actually go through with it. You're not who I hired. No, but I'm glad I walked through that door anyway. The clock showed 3:17 a.m. They'd been talking for over 3 hours, and Lauren couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this comfortable with someone. There was no pressure, no expectations, just 2 people who'd accidentally found each other on the worst possible night. I should let you sleep, Andrew said, standing up. I'll go down to the front desk and get my actual room sorted out. Thank you, Lauren said, for staying, for listening. You didn't have to do any of that. Yes, I did. He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. If you ever need anything, a recommendation, a job reference, or just someone to talk to, call me. She looked at the card. Andrew Cole, CEO, Cole Industries. Recognition finally clicked. Cole Industries was one of the biggest corporate firms in the state. You're Andrew Cole, she said stupidly. I know, we established that when I barged into your room. But he was smiling. I can't believe I told the CEO of Coal Industries about my terrible ex-boyfriend. I can't believe the CEO of Coal Industries just spent 3 hours talking instead of sleeping before his 9 a.m. meeting. We're both full of surprises tonight. He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. Lauren, that man was wrong about you. You're not too much. You're exactly enough. Then he was gone, leaving her alone in the hotel room with his business card and the strange, fragile feeling that maybe, just maybe, she was going to be okay. She fell asleep in her anniversary dress, and for the first time all day, she didn't cry. The next morning, Lauren woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and a pounding headache. She lay still for a moment, trying to piece together the previous night. The confrontation with Marcus, the bar with Simone, the hotel room, the man who'd walked through the door. Andrew Cole. She sat up too quickly, and her head protested. Had that really happened? Had she really poured her heart out to a complete stranger? A billionaire CEO, no less. And had he really stayed and listened? His business card was on the nightstand, proof it hadn't been a champagne-fueled dream. She picked it up, running her thumb over the embossed lettering. She'd probably never see him again. Men like that didn't stay in touch with random women they met in hotel rooms, even if the circumstances had been unusual. Still, she tucked the card carefully into her wallet before checking out. The next week passed in a blur. Lauren threw herself into work, staying late at the office, volunteering for every project she could find. Anything to avoid thinking about Marcus, about the apartment they'd shared, about the future she'd been planning that had turned to ash. Simone checked on her daily, bringing coffee and takeout and refusing to let her wallow. "You're doing great," Simone said on Thursday, finding Lauren at her desk at 8 p.m. "And by great, I mean you look like hell and you need to go home." "I'm fine." "You're working yourself to death to avoid dealing with your feelings. It's not healthy." "It's healthier than hiring an escort." "Fair point." Simone perched on the edge of her desk. "So what happened with that anyway? You never told me how it went." Lauren had avoided this conversation all week. "It didn't happen. Someone else showed up instead." "Someone else? Like a different escort?" "Like a guy who got the wrong room." Simone's eyes widened. "Please tell me you didn't." "No. God, no. We just talked. All night. It was actually really nice." "Did you get his number?" Lauren thought of the business card in her wallet. "Sort of." "And are you going to call him?" "No, it was just one night, a weird, random coincidence, that's all." But even as she said it, she found herself thinking about Andrew. About the way he'd listened without judgment, about his daughter and his grief, about the kindness in his eyes when he'd told her she was exactly enough. On Friday afternoon, Lauren was called into her boss's office. "We've got news," Janet said, gesturing for her to sit. "The company is being acquired." Lauren's heart sank. Acquisitions meant restructuring, layoffs, uncertainty. By who? Coal Industries. They're buying out our parent company, which means we'll be absorbed into their corporate structure. Coal Industries. Andrew's company. "What does that mean for us?" Lauren asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Honestly, I don't know yet. But they're asking for resumes from key personnel in each department. I'm recommending you for a senior assistant position to their CEO. It's a big step up from where you are now, and the pay is significantly better." "The CEO," Lauren repeated faintly. "I know it's sudden, but I think you'd be perfect for it. You're organized, brilliant, and you've been killing it on every project. I already submitted your resume. You'll hear back within a week if they want an interview." Lauren left the office in a daze. Of all the companies that could have acquired them, it had to be his. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. 3 days later, she got the call. They wanted to interview her on Monday at 9 a.m. at the Coal Industries headquarters. "This is crazy," she told Simone that weekend. "What are the odds?" "Maybe it's fate," Simone said. "Maybe this is the universe giving you a do-over. Or maybe it's the universe laughing at me." Monday morning, Lauren stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes, trying to decide what to wear. Professional, but not boring. Confident, but not arrogant. Finally, she settled on a charcoal gray suit with a cream blouse, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. The Coal Industries building was downtown, all glass and steel, modern and imposing. Lauren's heels clicked on the marble floor as she approached the reception desk. "Lauren Whitmore," she said, "I have a 9 a.m. interview." The receptionist checked her computer. "Yes, Ms. Whitmore. Take the elevator to the top floor. Someone will meet you there." The elevator ride felt endless. Lauren watched the numbers climb, her stomach fluttering with nerves. This was a huge opportunity, life-changing. She couldn't let her personal connection to Andrew, if you could even call one random night a connection, interfere with her professionalism. The doors opened to a sleek reception area where a woman in her 50s greeted her warmly. "Miss Whitmore, I'm Patricia, Mr. Cole's executive assistant. Right this way." She led Lauren down a hallway lined with contemporary art, past several closed doors, to a large corner office at the end. Patricia knocked twice, then opened the door. "Ms. Whitmore is here for her interview, sir." "Send her in." Lauren took a deep breath and walked into the office. Andrew stood behind his desk, looking at something on his computer screen. He glanced up when she entered, and for a moment, they both froze. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by surprise, then something she couldn't quite read. "Ms. Whitmore," he said evenly, "please, have a seat." She sat in one of the leather chairs across from his desk, her heart pounding. He looked different in his element, more polished, more powerful. But his eyes were the same eyes that had looked at her with such kindness in that hotel room. "I have to admit," he said, closing his laptop, "when I saw your name on the interview list, I wondered if it was the same Lauren Whitmore from the hotel." "Small world," she managed. "Indeed." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I want to be clear about something before we go any further. What happened that night, our conversation, the circumstances of how we met, will have absolutely no bearing on my decision today. You're here because Janet recommended you highly, and your resume is impressive. This interview will be conducted entirely on the merits of your professional qualifications. Is that understood?" "Yes," Lauren said, relief and disappointment warring in her chest. "Thank you. Now then." He picked up a folder, her resume, she realized. "Tell me about your experience in corporate marketing." For the next 40 minutes, they discussed her work history, her accomplishments, her vision for the role. Andrew asked insightful questions that challenged her to think strategically. Lauren found herself relaxing, falling into the rhythm of the interview, forgetting for moments at a time that this was the man who'd accidentally saved her from her lowest point. "One last question," Andrew said. "This position requires someone who can handle pressure, who can adapt quickly to changing situations, and who can think on their feet. Can you give me an example of a time when you've demonstrated those qualities?" Lauren thought of a dozen professional examples she could cite. Instead, she found herself saying, "2 weeks ago, I found out my boyfriend of 2 years had been cheating on me. That same night, I made some reckless decisions, one of which led to meeting a stranger in a hotel room who helped me realize that being hurt doesn't mean being broken. The next day, I got up, went to work, and started rebuilding my life. I think if I can handle that, I can handle corporate pressure." Andrew's expression shifted. Something warm flickered in his eyes before he schooled his features back to professional neutrality. "That's a good answer," he said quietly. Then, louder, "Ms. Whitmore, I'd like to offer you the position." "Really?" "Really, you're qualified, you're resilient, and I think you'd be an asset to this company. Patricia will go over the details with you. Salary, benefits, start date. But yes, the job is yours if you want it." "I want it," Lauren said immediately. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "I don't think you will." He stood, extending his hand across the desk. She stood and shook it, feeling the same electric awareness she'd felt that night. "Welcome to Cole Industries, Ms. Whitmore." "Thank you, Mr. Cole." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her at the door. "Lauren?" She looked back. "For the record," he said, "I meant what I said that night. You're exactly enough. And I'm glad fate gave us a second chance to cross paths." Warmth spread through her chest. "Me too." Patricia was waiting in the hallway to discuss the details of her new position. The salary made Lauren's eyes widen. It was nearly double what she'd been making. The benefits were comprehensive. The start date was in 2 weeks, giving her time to transition out of her current role. As she rode the elevator back down, Lauren caught her reflection in the polished doors. She looked different than she had 2 weeks ago, stronger, more certain. She thought of Marcus and felt Nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a distant sense of gratitude that he'd shown his true colors before she'd wasted any more time on him. She thought of Andrew and felt something else entirely, something that felt like possibility. Outside, the sun was shining, and the city stretched out before her, full of new beginnings. Lauren pulled out her phone and texted Simone, "I got the job, and you're never going to believe who my new boss is." The response was immediate. "Tell me everything." Lauren smiled and started walking, ready to tell her best friend about second chances and wrong room numbers and the night that had changed everything. She was exactly enough, and she was ready for whatever came next. Lauren's first day at Cole Industries arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made her hands shake as she buttoned her blouse. She'd chosen a deep burgundy suit, professional but bold, a statement that she belonged here despite the unconventional circumstances that had led to this moment. The elevator ride to the top floor felt different now. She wasn't a nervous interviewee anymore. She was an employee, Andrew's senior assistant, stepping into a role that would either launch her career or become the most awkward professional relationship in corporate history. Patricia greeted her with a warm smile and a steaming cup of coffee. "Welcome to your first day. I've prepared your workspace and left orientation materials on your desk. Mr. Cole has back-to-back meetings this morning, but he wanted me to show you around first." The office suite was impressive. Lauren's desk positioned strategically outside Andrew's office door, with a view of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. Patricia walked her through the filing systems, the scheduling software, the endless protocols that governed Andrew's professional life. "He's demanding but fair," Patricia said. "He expects excellence, but he also respects boundaries. Don't let him work through lunch. He'll forget to eat if you don't remind him. And Fridays he leaves at 3 sharp to pick up his daughter from school. That's non-negotiable." "His daughter," Lauren repeated, remembering the way Andrew's face had softened when he talked about Emma that night. "Emma. She's 6, brilliant, and has her father wrapped around her little finger." Patricia's expression grew fond. "You'll meet her eventually. She stops by sometimes after school." The morning passed in a whirlwind of orientation tasks and introductions. Lauren met department heads, learned the intricate dance of managing Andrew's calendar, fielded calls from people whose voices she recognized from business news reports. By lunch, her head was spinning. She was reviewing a contract when Andrew's office door opened. He emerged looking harried, tie loosened, phone pressed to his ear. "No, tell them we need the revised figures by tomorrow morning, not next week," he was saying. His eyes met Lauren's briefly, and something flickered there, acknowledgement, maybe awareness, before he refocused on his call. "I don't care if it's inconvenient. The board meeting is Wednesday." He hung up and finally seemed to register her presence fully. "Ms. Whitmore, how's your first day?" "Overwhelming in the best way," she said honestly. "Good. That means you're paying attention." He glanced at his watch. "I have a lunch meeting with potential investors in 20 minutes. Make sure you eat something. Patricia's right that I forget, but you shouldn't adopt my bad habits." "Yes, sir." "Andrew," he corrected. "When it's just us, you can call me Andrew. The formality is for everyone else." Before she could respond, his phone rang again, and he was gone, striding toward the elevator with the focused energy of a man who never stopped moving. Lauren ate lunch at her desk, reviewing files and trying not to think about how strange this was. 2 weeks ago, she'd been pouring her heart out to this man in a hotel room. Now she was managing his schedule and learning his coffee preferences. Black, 2 sugars, but only in the morning. Straight black afternoon. The afternoon brought its own challenges. A client called, furious about a delayed contract. Lauren listened calmly, made notes, and promised Andrew would call back within the hour. When she knocked on his door to relay the message, she found him on another call, but he gestured for her to enter. She waited while he wrapped up the conversation, taking in the details of his office she'd been too nervous to notice during her interview. Photos on the credenza caught her eye. A little girl with dark curls and Andrew's eyes, grinning gap-toothed at the camera, Emma. In another frame, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, her hand intertwined with Andrew's, his late wife. "That's Sarah," Andrew said quietly. She turned to find him watching her, phone call finished. "Emma looks more like her every day." She was beautiful. She was everything. He said it simply, a statement of fact rather than sentimentality. What did you need? Lauren relayed the angry client's message and Andrew sighed. Robert's always dramatic. I'll call him back. Anything else? Your 3 o'clock meeting was pushed to 3:30, and Patricia said to remind you that you have Emma's parent-teacher conference tomorrow at 4. Already in my calendar. He stood, gathering files. Come with me to the 3:30. It's a preliminary discussion about the Meridian acquisition, and you'll need to understand the context for scheduling follow-ups. The meeting was in a glass-walled conference room with a dozen executives who all seemed to speak in acronyms and corporate jargon. Lauren took notes furiously, trying to keep up with the rapid-fire discussion of market shares and valuation metrics. Andrew commanded the room effortlessly, his earlier exhaustion replaced by sharp focus. We're not moving forward until we have complete transparency on their debt structure, he said, cutting off a vice president mid-sentence. I don't care what their lawyers say. We do our own independent audit or the deal's off. No one argued. When the meeting finally ended 2 hours later, Lauren's hand was cramping from note-taking. You kept up, Andrew observed as they walked back to the office suite. Barely. I understood maybe 60% of what was discussed. That's 50% more than most people on their first day. You'll learn the rest. He paused at his office door. Did Patricia mention I leave early on Fridays? She did. Emma's school lets out at 3. I'm never late to pick her up. There was something fierce in his voice, a line drawn in absolute terms. I don't care if the building's on fire. Fridays at 3, I'm gone. Understood. Good. He hesitated, then added, You're doing well, Lauren. Better than well. The use of her first name, the genuine approval in his voice, sent warmth through her chest. Thank you. The week continued in the same intense rhythm. Lauren learned to anticipate Andrew's needs before he voiced them, to navigate the complex personalities in the office, to distinguish between urgent crises and manufactured drama. She discovered he was exacting, but never cruel, demanding, but also generous with praise when it was earned. She also discovered that working in close proximity to Andrew Cole was its own kind of torture, because every time he leaned over her desk to review a document, she caught the scent of his cologne, something woodsy and expensive. Every time their fingers brushed passing files, she felt that same electric awareness from the hotel. Every time he smiled, usually at something Emma-related, her heart did something complicated in her chest. This was her boss. This couldn't happen. Friday afternoon, Lauren was organizing files when a small tornado blew into the office. Daddy! The little girl from the photos launched herself at Andrew, who caught her easily, swinging her up. Hey, princess, how was school? We learned about volcanoes. Did you know they can explode and the lava is super hot? Like 1,000 degrees. At least 1,000, Andrew agreed, setting her down. Emma, I want you to meet someone. This is Ms. Whitmore. She works with me. Emma turned to study Lauren with serious brown eyes. She was wearing a dinosaur t-shirt and had paint stains on her jean. You're new. I am, Lauren said, crouching to Emma's eye level. It's nice to meet you. Do you like dinosaurs? I think they're fascinating. What's your favorite? Probably the Stegosaurus. I like the plates on their backs. Emma's face lit up. That's a good choice. Mine's the Velociraptor because they're smart and they hunt in packs. She turned to Andrew. Can Ms. Whitmore come to dinner with us? Emma, please, we're going to Mario's and they have that big table and Ms. Whitmore seems nice. Andrew looked at Lauren, something apologetic in his expression. You don't have to. I'd love to, Lauren heard herself say, if I'm not intruding. You're not intruding, Emma declared. Daddy says it's good to make new friends. Are we friends now? I think we are. Mario's turned out to be a family-owned Italian restaurant with checkered tablecloths and breadsticks that Emma consumed at an alarming rate. They sat in a corner booth, Emma chattering about volcanoes and dinosaurs, and her best friend Tyler, who was afraid of worms. Tyler's being silly, Emma said seriously. Worms are important for the ecosystem. We learned that in science. Emma's very into science lately, Andrew said, stealing one of her breadsticks. Hey, those are mine. I'm the one paying. That means I get breadstick privileges. Emma rolled her eyes in a gesture so adult that Lauren had to hide her smile. You're lucky you're my daddy. When the food arrived, Emma dove into her spaghetti with enthusiasm, getting sauce on her nose. Andrew reached over automatically with a napkin, wiping it off while continuing his conversation with Lauren about Monday's board meeting. Sorry, he said. Multitasking is a survival skill. Don't apologize, it's sweet. Something in his expression softened. She's my whole world. Everything else, the company, the meetings, all of it. It's just to give her the life she deserves. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. After Sarah died, he glanced at Emma, who was now building a tower with sugar packets. She's the reason I got out of bed every morning. Still is. Emma looked up. Are you talking about Mommy? A little bit, Princess. I miss her, Emma said matter-of-factly. But Ms. Whitmore is nice too. She can sit with us at the daddy-daughter dance next month. Emma. What? You said I could bring a friend. Andrew looked caught between amusement and mortification. I said you could invite a friend your age, not recruit my employees. But I like Ms. Whitmore. She knows about stegosauruses. Lauren couldn't help laughing. I'm honored by the invitation, Emma, but the daddy-daughter dance should be special time for you and your dad. We could make it special time for all three of us, Emma suggested, hopefully. Finish your spaghetti, Andrew said, but his lips were twitching, and maybe dial back the matchmaking. I don't know what that means. It means eat your dinner. Later, after they'd dropped Emma off with Andrew's sister for the weekend, sleepovers with Aunt Rachel are sacred, he'd explained. Andrew drove Lauren back to her car at the office. I'm sorry about Emma's ambush, he said. She's not usually that forward with people. I didn't mind. She's wonderful. She is. But she also gets ideas in her head, and once they're there, they're impossible to remove. He pulled into a parking space, turning to face her. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. What happened that night at the hotel? I meant what I said. It doesn't affect this, your job, any of it. I know, Lauren said. But sitting this close to him in the darkened car, she wasn't sure that was entirely true, because something was happening between them, something that had started that night and was growing despite all the professional boundaries they'd carefully constructed. Good, Andrew said, but he didn't move, didn't look away. Neither did she. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility and restraint. Lauren could see the exact second Andrew made his decision. His jaw tightened, and he looked away, breaking the spell. Have a good weekend, Ms. Whitmore. You too, she managed, climbing out of the car before she could do something stupid like lean across the console and kiss him. The weekend passed slowly. Simone demanded a full update over brunch Saturday morning. So let me get this straight, she said, stealing a piece of Lauren's waffle. Your mystery hotel man is your boss. His adorable daughter wants to adopt you, and you're trying to pretend you're not completely falling for him. I'm not falling for him. That would be insane. Insane is spending 3 hours pouring your heart out to a stranger, and then pretending that created no connection whatsoever. It's different now. He's my boss. There are rules, boundaries. There are also feelings. I can see them all over your face. Lauren sighed. Even if I did have feelings, which I'm not confirming, he's Andrew Cole, billionaire CEO. Widowed father. Way out of my league. The man who stayed with you all night in a hotel room when he could have left? The man who gave you a job and looks at you like you're the only person in the room? That man thinks you're out of his league. You're delusional. And you're terrified. Which I understand after Marcus. But Lauren, not every man is going to hurt you. Monday morning brought a new crisis. The Meridian deal was falling apart. Lauren arrived to find Andrew already in his office, phone pressed to his ear, frustration evident in every line of his body. I don't care what they want, he was saying. We had an agreement. They don't get to change terms now. The call lasted another 20 minutes. When Andrew finally emerged, he looked exhausted. Coffee, he said. Please, the strongest we have. Lauren handed him a cup she'd already prepared, black, 2 sugars, exactly how he liked it in the morning. He blinked in surprise. You're a mind reader. I'm observant. What's happening with Meridian? They're trying to renegotiate after we've already agreed on a price. It's a power play, and it's not going to work. He drank half the coffee in one long swallow. Can you get their legal team on the phone? Conference call in 20 minutes. The next several hours were a masterclass in corporate negotiation. Lauren listened as Andrew calmly dismantled every argument Meridian's lawyers presented, never raising his voice but making his position absolutely clear. "We're done renegotiating," he said finally. "You have until 5 p.m. to accept our original terms. After that, the offer is withdrawn, and we walk away. Your choice." He hung up and leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. Lauren had been taking notes in the corner, trying to be invisible. "What do you think?" he asked, without opening his eyes. "I think they'll accept. They have too much to lose if they don't." "Good instinct." He opened his eyes, studying her. "You're wasted as an assistant, you know. You should be in the boardroom." "I'm exactly where I want to be," she said, and meant it. Something flickered across his face. Pleasure, maybe, or satisfaction. "We'll see how you feel about that after a few more days like this one." At 4:47 p.m., Meridian called back. They accepted the original terms. "Told you," Lauren said as Andrew hung up. "Don't get cocky," he said, but he was smiling. "We still have to get through the due diligence process, but yes, you were right." Wednesday brought the board meeting Andrew had been preparing for all week. Lauren wasn't allowed in the room. "Board members only," Patricia explained, but she could hear raised voices through the door. When Andrew finally emerged 3 hours later, his tie was gone and his hair looked like he'd been running his fingers through it. "I need a drink," he muttered. "That bad?" "Thompson wants to push the Meridian deal back 6 months. Richards thinks we're overpaying. And Harrison spent 20 minutes asking questions he should have read in the briefing materials." He pinched the bridge of his nose. "Sorry. You don't need to hear this. Actually, I think you need to say it. You've been bottling everything up all week." He looked at her for a long moment. "Are you busy tonight?" "No. Why?" "Because I could use that drink, and I don't want to drink alone. Professional context only," he added quickly. "I'm not... This isn't..." "I know what it is," Lauren said gently. "And yes, I'll have a drink with you." They went to a quiet bar a few blocks from the office, the kind of place with leather booths and dim lighting where corporate types went to decompress. Andrew ordered whiskey. Lauren chose wine. "To surviving board meetings," Andrew said, raising his glass, "and demanding bosses. I'm not that demanding. You made me redo the Henderson contract 3 times yesterday, because it wasn't right the first 2 times. That's not demanding, that's maintaining standards." But he was smiling slightly. "Am I really that difficult to work for? Honestly, no. You're exacting, but you're also fair, and you actually notice when people do good work, which is rarer than you'd think. That's because most executives are too busy looking at spreadsheets to see the people making those spreadsheets possible." He took a drink. "I watched my father run his company into the ground because he didn't value his employees. I swore I'd never make that mistake." "Is that why you started Coal Industries?" "Partially. Mostly I wanted to build something that would last, something I could pass down to Emma someday if she wants it. Sarah used to tease me about my legacy obsession." His voice caught slightly on her name. "She said I was trying to build a monument. Maybe I was. There's nothing wrong with wanting to create something meaningful." "No, but sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it for the right reasons, or if I'm just trying to outrun grief by staying busy." He looked at her directly. "You probably understand that better than most." Lauren thought of the way she'd thrown herself into work after Marcus, using meetings and projects as a shield against feeling. "Yeah, I do." "The hotel that night," Andrew said quietly. "What you said about hiring someone to prove you weren't broken, I understood that impulse completely. After Sarah died, I thought if I could just keep moving, keep working, keep Emma's life normal, I wouldn't have to face the fact that half of me was gone." "Did it work?" "For a while. Then Emma asked me why I never smiled anymore, and I realized I was teaching her that grief meant shutting down. So I had to learn how to feel things again, even when it hurt." He met her eyes. "You helped with that, actually. That night." "I don't understand." "You reminded me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that letting someone see your pain doesn't diminish you. I'd forgotten that." He paused. "So thank you." Lauren felt tears prick her eyes. "You helped me too, more than you know." They talked for 2 more hours, the conversation flowing as easily as it had that first night. Andrew told her about Emma's latest obsession with space exploration, about his sister Rachel's terrible dating choices, about the pressure of running a company while trying to be a present father. Lauren told him about her slowly fading anger at Marcus, about rebuilding her confidence, about her dreams of maybe running her own consulting firm someday. "You should," Andrew said. "You're brilliant at reading people and situations. You'd be incredible at it." "Maybe someday. Right now, I'm learning from the best." His smile was warm. "You're good for my ego." When they finally left the bar, the city was dark, streetlights reflecting off glass buildings. Andrew walked her to her car, hands in his pockets. "This was nice," he said. "We should do it again sometime." "Professional context only?" Lauren asked, unable to keep the slight edge from her voice. "Lauren," he stopped, seeming to wrestle with something. "I want to be honest with you. That night at the hotel, something shifted for me. And working with you this week, getting to know you better, it's getting harder to maintain professional distance." Her heart hammered. "Andrew, but I'm also your boss, and you just got out of a terrible relationship. And I have Emma to think about. So even though He cut himself off. "Professional context, that's all this can be." "Right," Lauren said, trying to ignore the disappointment crushing her chest. "Of course. I'm sorry." "Don't be. You're right. It's complicated." She drove home with his words echoing in her head. Even though What? Even though he was attracted to her? Even though he had feelings? Even though he wanted something more? Thursday morning, the tension between them was palpable. Andrew was distant, professional to the point of coldness. Lauren matched his tone, keeping every interaction brief and businesslike. Patricia noticed. "Did something happen between you two?" "Nothing happened. That's the problem." "Ah." Patricia's expression turned knowing. "For what it's worth, I've worked for Andrew for 5 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." "It doesn't matter. You made it clear nothing can happen." "Andrew's complicated. He feels responsible for everyone, the company, Emma, even you. He'll protect everyone else's well-being at the expense of his own." Patricia squeezed her shoulder. "Give him time. He's scared." Friday afternoon, Emma burst into the office as usual, but this time she looked upset. "Princess, what's wrong?" Andrew asked immediately, kneeling in front of her. "Tyler said his dad is taking him to the Science Museum tomorrow, and I wanted to go, but I know you're busy with work stuff." Her lower lip trembled. "It's okay. I can stay with Aunt Rachel." Andrew's face did something complicated. Lauren watched him weigh his responsibilities, the mountain of work on his desk against his daughter's disappointment. "Tell Tyler we'll meet them there," Andrew said, "and we'll get ice cream after." "Really?" Emma's face lit up. "Really? Work can wait." After Emma had gone to wash paint off her hands in the bathroom, Andrew turned to Lauren. "Can you move Monday's meetings to Tuesday and cancel anything non-essential for tomorrow morning?" "Already doing it," Lauren said, fingers flying over her keyboard. "You're a miracle worker." "I'm a competent assistant who knows what's important." Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition. Then Emma was back, chattering about all the exhibits she wanted to see, and the moment passed. But that night, Lauren's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for today. For understanding about the museum, about Emma, about all of it. I don't say it enough, but you make my life easier. Andrew." She stared at the message for a long time before responding. "That's my job, but you're welcome. Lauren." His reply came quickly. "It's more than your job. At least it's starting to feel that way. Sleep well." Lauren fell asleep with her phone in her hand, rereading those words, letting herself imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like if the professional boundaries between them could dissolve. If that night in the hotel had been a beginning instead of an impossible complication. If Andrew Cole could be more than her boss. If she could be more than his assistant. If they could be something neither of them had the courage to name yet. The following week brought an unusual rhythm to their working relationship. Andrew remained professionally distant during office hours, but the text messages continued. Nothing inappropriate, Nothing that crossed any clear lines, but they were there. Late at night, early in the morning, little windows into the parts of his life that existed outside the boardroom. Emma just asked why stars twinkle. I gave her a 10-minute explanation about atmospheric refraction. She fell asleep halfway through. I'm calling that a parenting win. Lauren smiled at her phone, curled up on her couch with a glass of wine. That definitely counts as a win. Though you might want to work on the delivery. Are you suggesting I'm boring? I'm suggesting that atmospheric refraction isn't exactly bedtime story material. Fair point. What would you have said? She thought for a moment before typing her response. I would have told her that stars twinkle because they're so far away that their light has to travel through lots of air to reach us, and the air moves around and makes the light dance, like looking at something through water. The reply took longer this time. That's perfect. You're good at this. At explaining things to 6-year-olds, at making complicated things simple, at knowing what people need to hear. Lauren stared at the message, her heart doing that complicated thing again. She wanted to ask what he needed to hear, what he was really saying underneath all these carefully neutral words. Instead, she typed something safe. Get some sleep, Andrew. You have the Richardson meeting at 7. Yes, ma'am. Good night, Lauren. Monday morning arrived with unexpected chaos. Lauren walked into the office to find Patricia frantically sorting through papers, her usually calm demeanor frayed. Thank heavens you're here, Patricia said. Andrew's at the hospital. Lauren's stomach dropped. What happened? Is he okay? He's fine. Emma fell at school, nothing serious, just a sprained wrist, but he left everything here. The Richardson meeting is in 45 minutes, and he needs the Westfield contracts and the revised budget projections. I'll take them to him. Are you sure? The hospital is across town and traffic. I'll make it work. Lauren was already gathering the files Patricia indicated. Which hospital? 20 minutes later, she was hurrying through the emergency room entrance, her heels clicking on linoleum, a leather portfolio clutched to her chest. She found Andrew in a waiting area, Emma sitting beside him with her arm in a temporary sling, tears dried on her cheeks. Ms. Whitmore! Emma's face brightened despite her obvious discomfort. Hey, sweetheart. I heard you had an adventure today. I fell off the monkey bars. It hurt a lot, but I didn't cry that much. Daddy said I was very brave. You were incredibly brave, Andrew said, his hand resting protectively on Emma's shoulder. Then he looked at Lauren. What are you doing here? Patricia sent me. You have the Richardson meeting in 30 minutes. She handed him the portfolio. Everything you need is in here, organized by topic. I also emailed you the presentation slides in case you want to review them on your phone. Andrew stared at her. You brought this across town in rush hour traffic? Richardson's worth $40 million to the company. Of course I brought it. Something shifted in his expression, gratitude mixed with something deeper that made her breath catch. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without... You would have rescheduled, and Richardson would have understood because you're dealing with a family emergency. But this way, you don't have to choose. Emma tugged on Andrew's sleeve. Daddy, can Miss Whitmore stay with me while you do your meeting? The doctor said it would be a while before they can see me, and Aunt Rachel can't get here for another hour. Emma, Ms. Whitmore has work. I'll stay, Lauren said immediately. Patricia can handle anything urgent, and you need to focus on Richardson. Andrew looked torn, his protective instinct toward Emma warring with professional responsibility. Are you sure? Completely sure. Go close your $40 million deal. We'll be fine. He hesitated another moment, then squeezed Emma's good hand. I'll be back as soon as I can, Princess. Be good for Miss Whitmore. I'm always good, Emma said indignantly. After Andrew left, Lauren settled into the chair beside Emma. The little girl was trying to be brave, but Lauren could see the pain and fear underneath. Does it hurt a lot? Lauren asked gently. Kind of, but I don't want to be a baby about it. Hey, it's okay to say when something hurts. That's not being a baby. That's being honest. Lauren dug in her purse. I always carry emergency supplies. Want to see? Emma nodded, and Lauren pulled out an assortment of items. Hand sanitizer, tissues, a small package of cookies, and a travel-size coloring book with crayons. You have coloring stuff in your purse? Emma's eyes widened. I learned to always be prepared. Never know when you might need to entertain a brave girl in a hospital waiting room. She opened the coloring book. Want to color with me? We can use your good hand. For the next hour, they colored together. Emma talked about school, about her best friend Tyler, who was scared of worms, about how she wanted to be a scientist when she grew up so she could study volcanoes and dinosaurs, and maybe space if she had time. You can study all of those things, Lauren said. You don't have to choose just one. Really? Daddy said I could be anything I want. Your daddy's right. You're smart and curious, and those are the most important things. Emma was quiet for a moment, carefully coloring inside the lines. Then she said, I like you, Miss Whitmore. I like you too, Emma. I think my daddy likes you too. He smiles more when you're around. Lauren's hand stilled on the crayon. Does he? Uh-huh. He used to not smile much after Mommy died. Aunt Rachel says he forgot how, but he remembers now. Emma looked up at her with serious brown eyes. I think Mommy would like that. She didn't want Daddy to be sad forever. The simple wisdom of it made Lauren's throat tight. Your Mommy sounds like she was wonderful. She was. I don't remember her as much as I used to, and that makes me sad sometimes. But Daddy tells me stories about her, so it's kind of like remembering. Before Lauren could respond, a nurse called Emma's name. They went back together, and Lauren held Emma's good hand while the doctor examined her wrist, explaining everything in terms a 6-year-old could understand. It's definitely sprained, but not broken, the doctor said. We'll wrap it up, and she'll need to wear a brace for about 2 weeks. No monkey bars during that time, okay? Okay, Emma said, looking relieved it wasn't worse. Andrew arrived just as they were finishing the wrapping, slightly out of breath like he'd run from the parking lot. How is she? Just a sprain, the doctor confirmed. She'll be fine. The tension drained from Andrew's shoulders. He crouched in front of Emma, gently touching her wrapped wrist. How are you feeling, Princess? It doesn't hurt as much now. And Ms. Whitmore let me color in her special coloring book. And we talked about science, and the doctor said I was the bravest patient she'd seen all day. I'm sure you were. He looked up at Lauren. Thank you. For staying, for everything. Of course, Lauren said, feeling the weight of Emma's earlier words. He smiles more when you're around. In the parking lot, Andrew walked Lauren to her car while his sister Rachel took Emma to get ice cream as promised. How did the Richardson meeting go? Lauren asked. He signed. $40 million, just like you said. Andrew leaned against her car, looking exhausted. I almost canceled when Emma got hurt. The thought of her being scared and in pain while I was talking about profit margins. But you didn't have to choose. That's what matters. Because of you, you made it possible for me to be in 2 places at once. He was quiet for a moment. Emma really likes you. She doesn't open up to people easily, not since Sarah. She's an amazing kid. You're doing a great job with her. I'm terrified every single day that I'm not enough, that I can't be both mother and father, that she'll grow up feeling like something's missing. Andrew, Lauren touched his arm. She's happy. She's brilliant and kind and brave. Whatever you're doing, it's working. He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. The air between them shifted, charged with the same electricity from that night in the hotel, from every moment since when their eyes had met and held just a second too long. Lauren, I need to tell you something. Her heart hammered. Okay. That night we met, when I said I'd walked into the wrong room, that was true. But staying wasn't just kindness. I could have left after 5 minutes, could have corrected the misunderstanding and gone to find my actual room. But I didn't want to. You were hurting, yes, but you were also fascinating, strong and vulnerable at the same time, honest in a way people rarely are. He paused. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since. Andrew, let me finish. When you walked into my office for that interview, I told myself it was fate giving us a second chance. But I also told myself that as your boss, nothing could happen, that I needed to maintain professional boundaries for both our sakes. His voice dropped. I was wrong. Wrong about what? About thinking I could keep you at a distance, about pretending what I feel is just professional respect. He looked directly at her. I have feelings for you, Lauren. Real feelings that get stronger every day. And I know the timing is terrible and the situation is complicated, but I can't keep pretending I don't. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at it and cursed softly. It's the board chair. I have to take this. Go, Lauren said, her mind reeling. We can talk later. But as she drove home, she realized she had no idea what to say. Because Andrew had just admitted he had feelings for her, the same feelings that had been growing in her own chest despite every attempt to suppress them. And now they had to figure out what to do about it. The next morning, Lauren arrived at the office to find a note on her desk in Andrew's handwriting. My office when you get in. We need to talk. Her stomach fluttered with nerves as she knocked on his door. Come in. Andrew was standing at the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets. The tension in his shoulders was visible even through his suit jacket. You wanted to see me? He turned. I'm sorry about yesterday, for dumping all of that on you in a parking lot after you'd spent your morning in a hospital. It was inappropriate. It wasn't inappropriate. It was honest. It was honest and inappropriate, and it put you in an impossible position. He ran a hand through his hair. You work for me, Lauren. That creates a power dynamic that makes any relationship between us ethically complicated at best. I know that. So we need to establish some ground rules, clear boundaries that protect both of us. Lauren felt something crack in her chest. You're taking it back. What you said yesterday. I'm not taking it back. I meant every word. But meaning it doesn't make it right. He looked at her with such intensity that she had to look away. You deserve someone who can give you everything without complications or conflicts of interest. Someone who doesn't come with a grieving 6-year-old and a company that demands 80-hour weeks. Don't I get a say in what I deserve? Of course you do, but I also have to consider Emma. What happens if we try this and it doesn't work? She's already attached to you. If things end badly, she loses someone else she cares about. And what if things don't end badly? Andrew's jaw clenched. We can't know that, and I can't risk her heart on a what if. The words hurt more than Lauren expected. So that's it? We just ignore this? We maintain professional boundaries, we do our jobs, and we accept that sometimes the right thing and the thing we want aren't the same thing. Lauren wanted to argue, to fight for what was building between them. But looking at Andrew's face, the pain and longing and fierce protectiveness for his daughter all mixed together, she understood. He wasn't pushing her away because he didn't care. He was pushing her away because he cared too much about too many people. Okay, she said quietly. Professional boundaries. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief or regret, she couldn't tell. Thank you for understanding. She left his office feeling hollow. Patricia took one look at her face and pulled her into the break room. What happened? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Lauren pressed her palms against her eyes. He has feelings for me, but we can't act on them because I work for him and he has Emma to think about. So we're just going to pretend we feel nothing and be professional. That's the dumbest plan I've ever heard. It's the responsible plan. It's the scared plan, Patricia corrected. Andrew's terrified of failing Emma the way he thinks he failed Sarah by not being there when she died. So he's choosing the safe option, even if it makes everyone miserable. What am I supposed to do? Quit my job? Ask him to choose between me and his daughter? No, you're supposed to be patient and let him work through his fear. And in the meantime, you keep being exactly who you are. The woman who dropped everything to bring him contracts, who sat with his daughter in a hospital, who makes him smile again. Patricia squeezed her hand. Give him time. He'll figure it out. The next week was torture. Lauren and Andrew maintained careful professionalism. No late-night texts, no lingering glances, no personal conversations that strayed beyond polite small talk. They were the picture of a functional boss and assistant relationship. It was killing them both. Friday afternoon, Emma came bounding into the office with her wrist still wrapped, waving a piece of paper triumphantly. Daddy, Ms. Whitmore, look! She thrust the paper at them. It was a drawing of 3 stick figures, a tall man, a smaller woman, and a child in the middle holding both their hands. Above it, in careful 6-year-old handwriting, My family. Lauren's breath caught. Andrew stared at the drawing, his expression unreadable. The teacher said to draw our family, Emma explained. I drew you and Daddy and me, Ms. Whitmore, because you feel like family now. Emma, Andrew started. I know Mommy was family too, and I still love her, but she's not here anymore, and you are. And Daddy says family is the people who love you and take care of you, so that's you. Emma looked between them with perfect 6-year-old logic. Right? Lauren couldn't speak. Andrew crouched down to Emma's level, his voice gentle. Princess, Ms. Whitmore is very special to both of us. But she works here, remember? She's not... But I want her to be family, Emma interrupted, her lower lip trembling. I love her, Daddy. Don't you? The question hung in the air. Andrew looked up at Lauren, and she saw everything in his eyes, all the feelings he'd been trying to suppress, all the fear and longing and impossible hope. He started, then stopped. Emma, it's more complicated than that. Why? Aunt Rachel says love isn't complicated. Either you love someone or you don't. Your Aunt Rachel is a hopeless romantic, Andrew said, but his voice was strained. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You don't love Miss Whitmore? I didn't say that. Then why can't she be family? Lauren knelt beside them both, her heart breaking for this little girl who'd lost her mother and was just trying to build something whole again. Emma, sweetheart, listen to me. I love being in your life. I love spending time with you and your dad. But sometimes grown-ups have to think about a lot of things before they can make big decisions like that. What things? Like making sure we're doing what's best for everyone. Like making sure we don't rush into something and hurt people we care about. Emma wiped her eyes. Would you want to be our family if all the grown-up things weren't in the way? Lauren looked at Andrew. He was staring at her with such raw emotion that it made her ache. Yes, she whispered. I would want that very much. Emma threw her good arm around Lauren's neck. Then we'll figure out the grown-up things. Right, Daddy? Andrew's voice was rough. Right, Princess. After Rachel picked up Emma for their weekend sleepover, Andrew and Lauren stood in his office in heavy silence. I'm sorry, Andrew said finally. I should have anticipated. She's 6. She sees things in simple terms. Love, family, happiness. Lauren met his eyes. Maybe she's onto something. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe we're overcomplicating this. Yes, you're my boss. Yes, there are ethical considerations. Yes, you have Emma to think about. But Emma just drew me into her family, Andrew. She loves me, and She stopped, heart pounding. You what? I love her too, and I love you. The words came out in a rush. I've been trying trying to respect boundaries and be professional, but I can't help it. I love the way you are with Emma, the way you care about your employees, the way you listened to me that night when I was breaking apart. I love your dedication and your kindness, and even your ridiculous work hours. Andrew crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, his hands framing her face. Say it again. Which part? The part where you love me. I love you, Lauren whispered. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like a man who'd been holding his breath underwater and finally broke the surface. Lauren melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, pouring 3 weeks of suppressed longing into the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Andrew rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, he said. I've loved you since that night in the hotel, maybe even from the moment you asked me to stay. I've been fighting it because I was scared of failing you, failing Emma, failing at something that matters so much. What changed? Emma's drawing, the way she sees us. She's not scared of loving you or losing you. She just loves you, simply and completely, the way only children can. He pulled back slightly to look at her. She's braver than I am. So what do we do now? Now we figure it out together. The ethics, the complications, all of it. Because I can't keep pretending I don't want this. His thumb brushed her cheek. I can't keep pretending I don't want you. Lauren's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and smiled. It's from Simone. She says, and I quote, "If you don't kiss your hot boss soon, I'm going to do it for you." Andrew laughed, the sound surprised out of him. Your best friend is terrifying. She's protective, and she's been watching me fall for you for weeks. Only weeks? I've been falling for months, since January to be precise. That was only one night. It was enough. He kissed her again, softer this time. I knew that night that you were going to change everything. I just didn't know how much." They talked for hours after that, sitting on the leather couch in his office as the sky outside darkened. They talked about the ethics of their relationship, agreeing that Lauren should meet with HR on Monday to discuss either transferring to a different department or reporting to Patricia instead of directly to Andrew. They talked about taking things slowly for Emma's sake, about not rushing into anything that might confuse or hurt her. They talked about Sarah, Andrew's late wife, and how loving someone new didn't erase the love that came before. "I'll always love her," Andrew said quietly. "She gave me Emma. She gave me the happiest years of my life before she was taken away." "I know, and I would never ask you to forget her or stop loving her. But I also can't let grief stop me from living, from being happy again, from loving again." He took Lauren's hand. "Sarah would want that for me. For Emma. She wouldn't want us frozen in the past. Emma said something to me at the hospital. She said she thinks her mommy would be happy that you smile again." Andrew's eyes shone with unshed tears. "Emma's wise beyond her years. She gets that from you." They kissed again, and this time there was no desperation, just tenderness and promise. When Lauren finally left the office, it was past midnight. Andrew walked her to her car, his hand warm in hers. "Monday we deal with the practical things," he said. "But tonight, can we just be two people who finally admitted they love each other? I think we can manage that." He kissed her one more time under the parking lot lights, and Lauren drove home feeling like she was floating. Her phone buzzed at a red light. "Thank you for being patient with me, for not giving up when I was too scared to take the leap. I meant what I said. I love you, and I'm done pretending I don't. Sleep well." She sent back a heart emoji, then added, "I love you too. See you Monday, boss. Just Andrew. When it's us, I'm just Andrew." Lauren fell asleep smiling, Marcus and the heartbreak that had brought her to that hotel finally feeling like it belonged to someone else's life. She'd walked into Andrew's room by accident and found something she hadn't even known she was looking for. Not just love, but the kind of love that was worth the complications, worth the wait, worth everything. And on Monday, they'd start figuring out how to make it work. Together. Monday morning arrived with a nervous energy that made Lauren change her outfit 3 times before settling on a navy dress that was professional yet flattering. She arrived at the office early, her stomach fluttering with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety about what the day would bring. Patricia was already at her desk, and she took one look at Lauren's face before breaking into a knowing smile. "So, something did happen this weekend." "Friday night, actually," Lauren admitted. "We talked. About everything." And I'm meeting with HR this morning to discuss reporting structure changes." Patricia's smile widened. "About damn time. I've been watching you two dance around each other for weeks. It was exhausting." "Was it that obvious?" "To anyone paying attention, yes. The way he looks at you when he thinks no one's watching, the way you light up when he walks into a room, it's been obvious since your first day." Patricia handed her a cup of coffee. "I'm happy for you both. And for Emma. That little girl needs more love in her life, and you have plenty to give." The HR meeting was surprisingly straightforward. Jennifer Martinez, the head of human resources, listened carefully as Lauren explained the situation. "So you and Mr. Cole have developed a personal relationship, and you want to ensure there are no conflicts of interest or improprieties in the workplace," Jennifer summarized. "Exactly. I don't want anyone to think I got my position or any advantages because of our relationship. And I want to make sure we're following all company policies." Jennifer nodded thoughtfully. "I appreciate you coming to me proactively. Many people in this situation try to hide it, which creates bigger problems down the line." She pulled up something on her computer. "We have several options. The simplest would be for you to report directly to Patricia instead of Mr. Cole, with a clear chain of command that removes him from decisions about your compensation, promotions, or performance reviews." "That works for me." "Good. I'll draft the paperwork and have it ready by end of day. In the meantime, I need to be clear about company policy regarding workplace relationships. They're not forbidden, but they must be disclosed, and both parties must maintain professional conduct during business hours. No preferential treatment, no public displays of affection in the office, and absolutely no allowing the relationship to impact your work performance or judgment." "I understand." "One more thing," Jennifer said, her expression softening slightly. I've worked here for 8 years. I watched Mr. Cole shut down after his wife died, watched him become all business and no joy. If you're the person who's brought him back to life, then I'm glad. Just protect yourself too. Make sure this is real and not just him trying to fill a void. It's real, Lauren said with certainty, for both of us. When she returned to her desk, she found Andrew waiting, leaning against her workspace with his arms crossed. He straightened when he saw her. How did it go? Good. I'll report to Patricia from now on, and we need to maintain professional conduct in the office. Jennifer's drafting the official documentation. Relief washed over his features. Thank you for handling that. I should have been in there with you. It needed to come from me. This way no one can say you influenced the decision. She glanced around the office, noting several employees watching them with poorly concealed curiosity. And we should probably continue this conversation somewhere more private. In his office with the door closed, Andrew pulled her into his arms. I barely slept last night, he admitted. I kept thinking about what we said, wondering if you'd change your mind in the daylight. I didn't change my mind. Did you? Not for a second. He kissed her forehead. But we need to talk about Emma, about how we tell her and what this means for her. I've been thinking about that too. We should take it slow, let her adjust gradually. Agreed. She already loves you, but there's a difference between loving you as my assistant who's kind to her and accepting you as someone who might become permanent in our lives. His voice grew serious. If we do this, if we really commit to trying, I need you to be sure. Because if it doesn't work out, she'll be devastated. I'm sure, Lauren said firmly. I'm not Marcus, Andrew. I don't make commitments I don't intend to keep. Something in his expression eased. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just scared. I know. So am I. She cupped his face. But I meant what I said Friday. I love you and I love Emma. I'm not going anywhere. The intercom on his desk buzzed. Patricia's voice came through. Andrew, your 9:30 is here. Thompson and the Westfield team. Send them to conference room B. I'll be there in 2 minutes. He turned back to Lauren. Tonight, come to dinner at my place. I'll cook. Emma will probably talk your ear off about whatever she learned at school, and we can start figuring out how to be us outside of this office. I'd like that. He kissed her quickly, then headed for the door. At the threshold, he paused. Lauren, thank you for being patient with me, for not giving up when I was being an idiot. You weren't being an idiot. You were being a good father. I'm going to try to be both, a good father and a good partner to you. After he left, Lauren sat at her desk trying to process everything that had changed in 72 hours. This time last week, she'd been nursing a broken heart and trying to convince herself she didn't have feelings for her boss. Now she was planning dinner at his house, navigating HR policies about workplace relationships, and contemplating a future that included a 6-year-old who drew her into family portraits. Her phone buzzed with a text from Simone. Spill. Now. What happened this weekend? You've been radio silent and I'm dying. Lauren smiled and typed back. Dinner tomorrow? I have a lot to tell you. You better. And if this involves your hot CEO boss, I want every detail. It definitely involves him. I knew it. Tomorrow at 7. Don't be late or I'll hunt you down. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. Lauren found herself hyper-aware of Andrew's presence, the sound of his voice through his office door, the moments when he'd emerged to ask her a question, the careful distance they maintained in front of others. It was thrilling and frustrating in equal measure. At 5 o'clock, Patricia stopped by her desk. Go. Your first day reporting to me officially starts tomorrow. Today, you're still on his schedule, which means you're off the clock. Are you sure? The Morrison files can wait until tomorrow. Go have dinner with your boyfriend and his daughter. Be human for an evening. Lauren gathered her things, and Andrew met her at the elevator. Follow me to my place? He asked. Unless you want to ride together, but then everyone will definitely know. I'll follow you, Lauren said, amused by his nervousness. It's fine. The drive to Andrew's house took them out of the business district into an upscale residential area with tree-lined streets and elegant homes set back from the road. His house was a beautiful 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch and a yard where a tire swing hung from an ancient oak tree. Emma came running out the front door before Lauren had even turned off her engine. Ms. Whitmore, you're here. Daddy said you were coming for dinner, and I've been waiting forever. She grabbed Lauren's hand, tugging her toward the house. Come see my room. I cleaned it and everything. Andrew followed behind them, laughing. Emma let her breathe first. It's okay, Lauren said, letting herself be pulled along. I want to see your room. Emma's bedroom was exactly what Lauren expected. Walls covered in drawings of dinosaurs and stars, shelves overflowing with books about science and space, and a desk where various art projects were in progress. On the nightstand was a framed photo of a woman holding a newborn baby, both smiling at the camera. That's my mommy and me when I was brand new, Emma said, following Lauren's gaze. Daddy says I was the most beautiful baby in the whole hospital. I'm sure you were, Lauren said softly. Do you think she would like you? Emma asked with the directness of children. The question caught Lauren off guard. She looked at the photo, at Sarah's warm smile and kind eyes, and tried to find an honest answer. I don't know, sweetheart, but I hope she would. I hope she'd be happy that you and your daddy are happy. Emma nodded seriously. I think she would. Aunt Rachel says Mommy loved Daddy so much that she'd want him to be happy, even if that means loving someone new. She looked up at Lauren. Do you make my daddy happy? I try to. Good, because he makes me happy and you make me happy, so if we all make each other happy, that's what matters, right? Lauren felt tears prick her eyes at the simple truth of it. Right. Dinner was chaotic in the best way. Andrew proved to be a decent cook, making pasta with homemade sauce while Emma set the table and narrated every detail of her school day. They ate together at a worn kitchen table that had clearly seen thousands of family meals, and Lauren felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness, of belonging. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Lauren her current science project about the solar system. See, this is Mars, and it's red because of iron oxide, which is basically rust, Emma explained, pointing to her poster board. And this is Jupiter, and it has a big storm called the Great Red Spot that's been going for hundreds of years. Isn't that cool? It's very cool. You've done amazing work on this. Ms. Whitmore knows about stars, Emma told Andrew. She explained why they twinkle, remember? You told me. Andrew smiled. I remember. She's very smart. As smart as you? Smarter, he said, catching Lauren's eye across the room. At 8 o'clock, Andrew announced it was bedtime. Emma protested, but ultimately gave in when he promised to read 2 chapters of her current book instead of 1. Can Ms. Whitmore help tuck me in? Emma asked. If she wants to, Andrew said, looking at Lauren. I'd love to. Upstairs, Emma changed into dinosaur pajamas and brushed her teeth while chattering about a field trip coming up next month. When she was finally in bed, Andrew sat on one side reading while Lauren sat on the other. Emma nestled between them. It felt almost unbearably domestic, this simple ritual of putting a child to bed. Lauren watched Andrew read, his voice gentle as he brought the story to life with different character voices that made Emma giggle. When he finished the 2nd chapter, Emma was drowsy but still fighting sleep. One more chapter? She asked hopefully. Nice try. We had a deal. He kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams, princess. Ms. Whitmore, will you come back for dinner again? Emma asked, her eyes already half closed. If your daddy invites me, yes. Good. I like when you're here. It feels like, she yawned, like we're a real family. Lauren's throat tightened. Get some sleep, sweetheart. Downstairs, Andrew poured them each a glass of wine and led Lauren to the back porch. They sat on a swing that overlooked the darkened yard, the tire swing swaying gently in the breeze. She's already attached to you, Andrew said quietly. More than I realized. Is that a problem? No, yes, I don't know. He ran his hand through his hair. I want this to work so badly, Lauren. I want us to be the family Emma's already decided we are, but I'm terrified of getting it wrong. What does getting it wrong look like to you? Moving too fast and scaring you off, or moving too slow and losing you anyway, or somehow damaging Emma in the process of figuring out how to blend our lives together. He looked at her. After Sarah died, people kept telling me it would get easier. They were lying. It doesn't get easier. You just get better at carrying the weight, but adding you to that weight, to my responsibilities, to the people I love and need to protect. I'm not a weight, Andrew. I'm supposed to help you carry things. I know. Logically, I know that. but I've been doing this alone for so long I've forgotten how to let someone help. Lauren set down her wine and took his hands. Then we'll learn together. You'll learn to let me help, and I'll learn what it means to be part of your and Emma's life. We don't have to figure it all out tonight. He pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence, the swing moving gently beneath them. Inside through the window, Lauren could see Emma's drawing still on the refrigerator, the three stick figures holding hands. I need to tell you something, Andrew said after a while. About that night in the hotel. Okay. I said I walked into the wrong room, and that was true. But I never told you that when I realized my mistake, when I saw you sitting there waiting for someone, I almost left. I almost apologized and walked out. But then you asked me to stay, and I looked at you, really looked at you, and something in my chest just shifted, like something that had been locked away suddenly opened. What changed your mind? About staying? Your eyes. You were trying so hard to be brave, to act like you had everything under control. But your eyes told a different story. They said you were breaking apart and desperately trying to hold the pieces together. He touched her face gently. I'd seen that look in the mirror for 3 years. I couldn't leave you to face it alone. I'm glad you didn't. So am I. Because that night changed everything. You changed everything. He kissed her softly. I love you, Lauren Whitmore. I love your strength and your vulnerability, your kindness and your intelligence. I love how you are with Emma, how you don't try to replace Sarah but instead make space for yourself alongside her memory. I love... She kissed him, stopping the words because they were too much and not enough all at once. They stayed on the porch swing until the wine was gone and the night had grown cold, talking about the future in careful, hopeful terms. When Lauren finally drove home after midnight, her heart felt full in a way it hadn't since before Marcus. Maybe fuller than it had ever been. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. At work, Lauren reported to Patricia and maintained scrupulous professionalism. Her projects expanded beyond just supporting Andrew. She started working on a major client pitch with the marketing team, drawing on her previous experience and proving she'd earned her position on merit. Outside the office, she and Andrew were building something real. Dinners at his house became regular occurrences, sometimes with Emma, sometimes after she'd gone to bed. Lauren met his sister Rachel, who pulled her aside and said, "You're good for him. I haven't seen him this alive in years." Lauren introduced Andrew to Simone, who sized him up over cocktails before declaring, "You hurt her. I destroy you. We clear?" "Crystal," Andrew said, clearly trying not to laugh. "Good. Now that we have that settled, welcome to the family." Emma's adjustment was the most seamless. She accepted Lauren's presence with the easy grace of children, incorporating her into their routines without question. She started asking Lauren for help with homework, sharing her latest scientific discoveries, planning activities that included all three of them. "Can we go to the aquarium this weekend?" Emma asked one evening at dinner. "They have a new jellyfish exhibit, and Ms. Whitmore hasn't seen the octopuses yet." "I'd love to see the octopuses," Lauren said. "Then it's settled," Andrew declared. "Saturday afternoon, after I finish my morning conference calls." At the aquarium, Lauren watched Andrew and Emma explore the exhibits with matching enthusiasm, explaining the science behind everything they saw. When Emma grabbed both their hands in front of the jellyfish tank, declaring them to be the coolest things ever, Lauren felt a profound sense of peace. This was what family looked like. Not perfect, but real. That night, after Emma had gone to sleep, Andrew and Lauren sat in his living room, her head on his shoulder. "I think we should talk about the future," he said, "about where this is heading." "Okay." "I'm not good at casual, Lauren. I don't know how to be in a relationship that's just for fun or just for now. When I commit to something, I'm all in, and I need to know if you're the same way." "I am. I don't do casual either." "Good, because I'm falling deeper every day, and I need to know you're falling with me." She sat up to look at him. "I'm not falling, Andrew. I've already fallen. I'm in love with you and with the life we're building. I want this, all of it. The complicated work situations, the 6-year-old who draws me into her family portraits, the late-night conversations on the porch swing. I want our future." He kissed her deeply, and when they broke apart, he said, "I was going to wait, to give us more time, but I can't. I know what I want, and it's you. Move in with us." "What?" "I know it's fast, I know we've only been officially together for a few weeks, but you're here almost every night anyway, and Emma asks for you when you're not. This house feels empty without you." He took her hands. "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet, but I'm asking you to build a life with us. To make this official, to let Emma have the family she's already decided we are." Lauren's heart was pounding. "This is crazy." "Probably. We barely know each other. We've known each other since January. We've worked together for 2 months. We've spent almost every evening together for the past month. I know you take your coffee with cream and 1 sugar. I know you're scared of spiders, but pretend not to be around Emma. I know you cry at commercials with dogs, but not at sad movies. I know you're the kindest, strongest, most wonderful person I've ever met." He searched her face. "Tell me what I don't know that would change your answer." She couldn't think of anything. Because he was right. They did know each other, in all the ways that mattered. "What about Emma? Shouldn't we ask her first?" "I already did. She's been begging me to ask you for weeks." "Of course she has." Lauren laughed, feeling tears on her cheeks. "This is insane." "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes. Absolutely yes." Andrew picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. When he set her down, he kissed her with a tenderness that made her ache. "You just made me the happiest man alive. And you just made me the happiest woman. Though I should probably tell Simone before she hears it from someone else." "Tell her tomorrow. Tonight is just for us." They stayed up late making plans. Which room would become Lauren's office, how to combine their belongings, when to officially make the move. It was practical and romantic all at once, exactly like them. When Lauren finally went home in the early morning hours, she found herself looking at her apartment with new eyes. This place had been her refuge after Marcus, the space where she'd rebuilt herself. But it had never felt like home. Not really. Home was wherever Andrew and Emma were. The next morning at work, Patricia took one look at Lauren's face and grinned. "Something else happened. He asked me to move in with him." "And you said yes, based on that smile." "I did. Is that crazy?" "Probably, but crazy doesn't mean wrong. When you know, you know." Patricia hugged her. "I'm happy for you, for all 3 of you." Over the following weeks, Lauren gradually moved her belongings into Andrew's house. Emma helped her unpack, chattering excitedly about how they were really a family now. They turned the spare bedroom into an office for Lauren, filling it with her books and her desk from the apartment. At work, the transition to reporting to Patricia was seamless. Lauren's role expanded further. She was now leading the client pitch team, and the presentation she'd developed was being praised throughout the company. "You're wasting your talent as an assistant," Patricia said one afternoon. "Have you thought about what you really want to do here?" "I have, actually. I'd like to move into strategic consulting, help clients develop their brand messaging and market positioning. Then let's make that happen. I'll talk to Andrew about creating a position for you in that department." "No," Lauren said firmly. "I appreciate it, but if I'm going to advance here, it needs to be on my own merit. No special treatment because I'm dating the CEO." Patricia's smile widened. "That's exactly the right answer. And for the record, you would have gotten this opportunity anyway. Andrew's personal feelings for you don't change the fact that you're exceptional at your job." That evening, Lauren came home to find Andrew and Emma in the kitchen, flour everywhere, attempting to bake cookies. "What happened in here?" she asked, surveying the disaster. "Science experiment gone wrong," Andrew admitted. "Emma wanted to see what would happen if we doubled all the ingredients." "We made cookie lava," Emma said proudly, pointing to the oven where something was definitely overflowing. Lauren laughed and rolled up her sleeves. "Okay, let's see if we can salvage this." Together, they cleaned up the mess and made a new batch of cookies, properly measured this time. When they finally sat down to eat them, Emma announced, "These are family cookies, because we made them together as a family." Lauren looked at Andrew across the table, at Emma munching contentedly on her cookie, and felt overwhelming gratitude for the strange path that had led her here. From heartbreak to a hotel room to a job interview to this kitchen covered in flour and filled with love. "Yes," she said, reaching for both their hands. "These are definitely family cookies." Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Andrew found Lauren on the back porch, staring up at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. about how different my life is now compared to 3 months ago, about how sometimes the worst things lead to the best things. Any regrets? Not a single one. She turned in his arms. I walked into that hotel room planning to prove I wasn't broken. Instead, I found someone who showed me I never was. And then I found a job and a family and a future I never could have imagined. I walked into the wrong room and found everything I didn't know I was looking for, Andrew said. So I'd say we're both pretty lucky. They stood together under the stars, two people who'd found each other by accident and chosen each other on purpose. Inside, Emma's family drawing was still on the refrigerator, a reminder of the simple truth that love didn't need to be complicated, it just needed to be real. And this was the realest thing either of them had ever known. 3 months into living together, Lauren woke to find Andrew's side of the bed empty. She checked the time, 5:30 in the morning, far too early even by his workaholic standards. Following the sound of quiet movement downstairs, she found him in his study, staring at his laptop with an expression that made her stomach clench. "What's wrong?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up and she saw the strain in his eyes. "The Singapore deal is falling apart. Their board is backing out, citing concerns about our financial projections. If this falls through, we lose $40 million in the entire Asian expansion." Lauren crossed the room and stood behind his chair, her hands on his shoulders. "What do you need?" "A miracle, or at least a new strategy by the emergency board meeting at 9. He rubbed his face. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't, and I'm here, so put me to work." "What are their specific concerns?" For the next 3 hours, they worked together, Lauren reviewing documents while Andrew made calls to overseas contacts. By the time Emma bounded downstairs ready for school, they had the skeleton of a new proposal. "Daddy looks tired," Emma observed, climbing into Lauren's lap at the breakfast table. "He's working on something really important, sweetheart." "Are you helping him?" "I'm trying to." Emma nodded seriously. "That's what family does. We help each other." She looked at Andrew. "Right, Daddy?" "Right, Princess." He managed a smile, but Lauren could see the tension underneath. After dropping Emma at school, they drove to the office in separate cars as always, maintaining the professional boundaries that had become second nature. But Lauren's mind was racing with the problem, turning over possibilities. At the board meeting, she sat outside the conference room with Patricia, both of them monitoring emails and fielding calls. Through the thick door, she could hear raised voices. The board was clearly not happy. 2 hours in, Andrew emerged looking haggard. "They want to pull the plug. Thompson's convinced we're overextended and half the board agrees with him." "What did you say?" "That I need 48 hours to revise the proposal. They gave me 24. He looked at her. "I don't know if I can salvage this, Lauren." "You can." "We can." She grabbed her tablet. "I've been looking at their concerns, and I think the issue isn't the projections. It's how we're presenting them. We're focusing on long-term growth, but what they want to see is immediate stability. Let me show you something." She'd spent the morning creating an alternative presentation, one that emphasized risk mitigation and short-term gains while still maintaining the vision for expansion. Andrew studied it, his expression shifting from exhaustion to something like hope. This could work. This might actually work. He looked at her with wonder. "How did you—" "I listened. To you, to the board members' concerns, to what Singapore's actually worried about. Sometimes the answer isn't changing the plan, it's changing how you tell the story." Andrew pulled her into his office and kissed her deeply. "You're brilliant. Have I told you that today?" "Not yet, but I'll accept it in the form of dinner at that Italian place I love." "Done. But first, help me rebuild this entire presentation in the next 18 hours. They worked through the night, ordering in food and surviving on coffee and determination. Patricia stayed late to help, and even Jennifer from HR stopped by to offer support. At 2 in the morning, Lauren found Andrew standing at his office window, staring out at the city lights. "You should rest," she said softly. "Can't. Too much riding on this. You're not alone in this anymore, you know. You don't have to carry everything yourself." He turned to her. "I'm still learning how to share the weight. After Sarah died, it was just me. I had to be strong for Emma, strong for the company, strong for everyone. I forgot how to let people help." "Then keep practicing, because I'm not going anywhere, and I'm pretty good at carrying heavy things." His smile was tired but genuine. "I love you." Have I mentioned that recently? Not in the last 3 hours. I was starting to worry. He kissed her forehead. I love you, and I'm keeping you forever. Good. Now let's finish this presentation so you can convince the board to keep their faith in you. The next morning's board meeting was tense. Lauren waited outside again, her stomach in knots, while Andrew presented the revised proposal. This time, when he emerged, his expression was lighter. They approved it, not unanimously but enough to move forward. He looked at her. Thompson still voted against it, but even he admitted the new presentation addressed his concerns. So the Singapore deal's back on? It's back on. And Lauren, they want you in the meeting next time. Richard specifically asked if the woman who did the analysis could attend future strategic sessions. Pride swelled in her chest. Really? Really? You've earned this, all on your own merit. No one can say you got opportunities because of me. That evening, they celebrated with Emma at the Italian restaurant, the little girl chattering about her upcoming science fair project, while Lauren and Andrew exchanged glances filled with relief and love. Can I tell you a secret? Emma asked, leaning across the table conspiratorially. Always, Lauren said. My teacher asked us to draw our heroes for art class. I drew you and Daddy. Lauren felt tears prick her eyes. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever told me, sweetheart. It's true, though. You're both my heroes. Daddy because he works so hard to take care of us, and you because you make everything better when you're here. Andrew's hand found Lauren's under the table, squeezing gently. We're lucky to have you too, Princess. As autumn shifted toward winter, their life together deepened into comfortable routines and small miracles. Emma's 7th birthday party was a dinosaur-themed extravaganza that Lauren helped plan, complete with a paleontologist who brought real fossils. Watching Emma's face light up with joy, Lauren felt a fierce, protective love that surprised her with its intensity. You're really good at this, Rachel told her, helping clean up after the party. Being a parent, you make it look natural. I don't feel natural. I feel like I'm making it up as I go. That's what all parents feel. Trust me. Rachel smiled. But Emma's thriving. She's happier than I've seen her since Sarah died. And Andrew, he's alive again. You did that. We did it together. Maybe, but you were the catalyst. You walked into their lives and reminded them that love doesn't end, it just grows to include new people. One night in early December, Lauren woke to find Andrew's side of the bed empty again. This time she found him in Emma's room, sitting in the rocking chair beside her bed, watching her sleep. Hey, she whispered from the doorway. You okay? Just thinking about how fast she's growing. How many moments I've missed because I was working. How many more I'll miss if I don't pay attention. Lauren sat on the floor beside his chair. You're here now. That's what matters. You know what Emma asked me today? She asked if you were going to be her new mommy. His voice was thick. I didn't know what to say. What did you tell her? That you love her very much, and that families come in all different shapes. That Sarah will always be her mommy, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for you too. He looked at Lauren. I hope that was okay. It was perfect. She asked if we were going to get married. She's very direct, my daughter. Lauren's heart skipped. What did you say to that? I said I hoped so, eventually, when the time was right. He stood and pulled Lauren to her feet, leading her out to the hallway. I meant it, Lauren. I want to marry you. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. I want you to be part of this family officially, legally, permanently. I want that too, she whispered. Good. Because I'm already planning how to propose, thinking about whether to do it at the office where we first officially met, or at that hotel where we first talked, or maybe somewhere completely new that's just ours. Wherever it is, the answer will be yes. He kissed her tenderly. I'll remember you said that. The holiday season brought new challenges and joys. Lauren's mother came to visit from across the country, and Lauren was terrified of how the meeting would go. So this is the boss you fell in love with, her mother said, sizing Andrew up over Thanksgiving dinner. Mom, it's all right, sweetheart. I'm allowed to be protective. She turned to Andrew. I watched my daughter pick up the pieces after that last relationship. I watched her rebuild herself from nothing. If you hurt her, I won't, Andrew said firmly. I love her more than I can express. And I promise you, I will spend every day trying to deserve her. Lauren's mother studied him for a long moment, then smiled. Good answer. Welcome to the family. Emma monopolized her grandmother's attention after that, showing off her room and her science projects and her collection of dinosaur books. Watching them together, Lauren felt a profound sense of rightness. Your mother's wonderful, Andrew said later, helping Lauren clean up the kitchen. She's opinionated and overprotective. She loves you. That's all that matters. Christmas morning was magical chaos. Emma woke them at 6, bouncing on their bed until they stumbled downstairs to find the living room transformed with presents. Lauren watched Andrew help Emma open her gifts, his face soft with love, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This is for you, Emma said, handing Lauren a carefully wrapped package. I made it myself. Inside was a drawing, the same stick figure family from months ago, but more detailed now. This time, each figure had a label in Emma's careful handwriting. Daddy, Emma, Lauren, and underneath, in bigger letters, My Family. Do you like it? Emma asked anxiously. I love it, Lauren managed, pulling the little girl into a hug. It's perfect. After Emma had gone to bed that night, exhausted from excitement, Andrew led Lauren to the back porch. Snow was falling softly, coating the yard in white. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Lauren's breath caught. Andrew, wait, let me do this right. He took her hands. 3 months ago, I walked into a hotel room by mistake and found you waiting for someone who never showed up. I should have left. I should have corrected the error and gone about my night, but I stayed, and that decision changed everything. You changed everything, Lauren corrected. We changed everything, together. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. I know we said someday, and I know this might seem fast to everyone else, but I've never been more certain of anything. Lauren Whitmore, you walked into my life when I'd given up on feeling whole again. You loved my daughter when you didn't have to. You challenged me, supported me, made me want to be better. Will you marry me? Yes, she said without hesitation. Absolutely, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, then kissed her as snow fell around them, the porch light creating a golden bubble in the darkness. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. Emma's going to lose her mind, Lauren said. She already knows. I asked her permission last week. She said, and I quote, "It's about time, Daddy. I've been waiting forever." Lauren laughed through her tears. Of course she did. They told Emma the next morning, and her shriek of joy probably woke the entire neighborhood. She insisted on calling everyone she knew, Aunt Rachel, her grandmother, even her teacher, to announce that Lauren was going to be her official family now. At work, the news spread quickly, despite their attempts at discretion. Patricia hugged them both, Jennifer from HR smiled knowingly, and even the usually stoic board members offered congratulations. I'm happy for you both, Thompson said grudgingly, though I still think that Singapore deal is risky. Noted, Andrew said, not bothering to hide his smile. Lauren's professional growth continued to accelerate. By spring, she'd been promoted to Director of Strategic Consulting, heading her own team and working with major clients. The role was demanding and fulfilling, everything she'd dreamed of when she'd first interviewed at Cole Industries. You've built something remarkable here, Patricia told her one afternoon. A career that's entirely yours. A reputation that has nothing to do with who you're engaged to. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without your support. And Andrew's, even though he made sure to never show favoritism. That man bent over backwards to ensure you got no special treatment. He was harder on you than anyone else just to prove a point. Patricia smiled. But he was also your biggest champion behind closed doors, making sure people saw your work and recognized your talent. The wedding planning was a joint effort, with Emma taking her role as flower girl very seriously. She insisted on helping choose everything from the flowers to the music to the cake flavors. It has to be perfect, Emma declared, because this is when our family becomes official. Our family was official the day Lauren moved in, Andrew told her. The wedding is just a party to celebrate it. A really good party, though, right? The best party, he promised. One evening in early summer, Lauren found herself back at the hotel where everything had started. Andrew had suggested dinner at the restaurant, and she'd agreed without thinking much of it. But when they walked through the lobby, memories flooded back, the heartbreak, the recklessness, the stranger who'd changed everything. I haven't been back here since that night, she admitted. I know, neither have I. He led her to the elevator. But I wanted to change that, to replace the memory of pain with something better. They rode up to the 18th floor, and Andrew stopped outside room 1847. I booked this room for tonight, not for what you're thinking, he added quickly at her expression. Just to talk, to remember, to acknowledge how far we've come. Inside, the room looked the same, elegant and impersonal, just another hotel room. But sitting on the bed where she'd waited for a stranger, looking at the man who'd accidentally become her entire world, Lauren felt the beautiful symmetry of it. I was so broken that night, she said. So convinced I was unlovable, that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with you, just a man too stupid to see what he had. I'm glad he was stupid, because if he hadn't cheated, if he hadn't broken my heart, I wouldn't have been here that night. I wouldn't have met you. Andrew sat beside her. I've thought about that too, about how many small decisions had to align perfectly for us to find each other. If the hotel hadn't mixed up the room numbers, if you'd left before I arrived, if I'd corrected the mistake immediately instead of staying. Do you ever regret it, staying that night? Not for a single second. That was the moment my life started again. Everything before was just surviving. Everything after has been living. He took her hand. I love you, Lauren. I love the woman you were that night, and the woman you've become. I love how you love Emma, how you've made us a family. I love your strength and your vulnerability, your ambition and your kindness. I love you too. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that asking for help isn't failing. You showed me what real partnership looks like, supporting each other, carrying each other's weight, building something together that's stronger than what either of us could build alone. They stayed in the room for hours, talking about their pasts and their future, about Sarah and Marcus, and how the people who'd hurt them had inadvertently led them to each other. When they finally left, Lauren felt like she was closing a chapter and opening a new one simultaneously. The wedding took place on a perfect September afternoon in the garden behind Andrew's house. Their house now. Emma walked down the aisle first, taking her job very seriously, followed by Rachel as maid of honor and Simone as bridesmaid. Then Lauren appeared, and Andrew felt his breath catch. She was wearing a simple ivory dress that made her look ethereal in the golden afternoon light. But it was her smile that undid him, radiant and certain and full of love. When she reached him, he took her hands. You're stunning. You're biased. Completely. And I plan to stay that way for the rest of our lives. The ceremony was short and meaningful, officiated by a friend who'd known Andrew since college. When it came time for vows, Andrew went first. Lauren, when I met you, I was a man going through the motions of living without really being alive. You changed that. You reminded me that grief and joy can coexist, that loving someone new doesn't diminish the love that came before. You gave Emma a mother figure who honors Sarah's memory while creating your own unique place in her heart. You gave me a partner, a best friend, a love I thought I'd never find again. I promise to support your dreams, to share your burdens, to make you laugh when you're sad and challenge you when you're comfortable. I promise to be worthy of the love you've given us so freely. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. Lauren was crying openly now, but she managed to speak through the tears. Andrew, I came to a hotel room one night planning to prove I wasn't broken. Instead, I found someone who showed me I never was. You saw me at my lowest and offered kindness instead of judgment. You've given me a family I didn't know I needed, and a love I didn't think I deserved. Emma, my sweet girl, you welcomed me into your life with the pure, uncomplicated love that only children can give. You taught me that family isn't just about biology. It's about choice and commitment and showing up every day. I promise to love you both fiercely and forever. I promise to be a partner to you, Andrew, and a mother to Emma in all the ways that matter. I promise to make our house a home filled with laughter and love and the occasional science experiment disaster. I choose this. I choose us with my whole heart. When they kissed, Emma cheered loudly, making everyone laugh through their tears. The reception was perfect chaos. Emma showing off her dance moves, Simone giving an embarrassingly detailed toast about how she'd known from the beginning that Andrew and Lauren were meant to be, Patricia tearing up during her own speech about watching their love story unfold. Lauren's mother pulled her aside at one point. "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. You've built something beautiful here." "I almost didn't. I almost let fear stop me from taking the chance." "But you didn't. You were brave enough to be vulnerable, to trust again after being hurt. That takes real courage." As the evening wore on and guests began to leave, Lauren found herself on the back porch with Andrew, Emma asleep inside after exhausting herself with dancing. "How does it feel to be Mrs. Cole, Andrew asked, pulling her close. "It feels right, like everything in my life led to this moment." "Even the bad parts?" "Especially the bad parts. Because they taught me to recognize the good when I found it." She looked up at him. "I found it in you." They stood together under the stars, the same stars they'd stood under countless times before, but everything felt different now. Official. Permanent. Real in a way it hadn't been before. "Thank you," Andrew said quietly. "For what?" "For taking a chance on a stranger in a hotel room. For seeing past the CEO to the widowed father who was barely holding it together. For loving Emma as fiercely as you love me. For choosing us. Thank you for staying that night. For seeing me when I felt invisible. For showing me that second chances are real and that love can bloom in the most unexpected places." She kissed him softly. "For giving me this family." Inside they could hear Emma stirring, calling for them. They went in together, finding her half asleep in her flower girl dress, clutching the bouquet she'd refused to put down. "Are you married now?" she asked drowsily. "We are, Princess," Andrew said, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Good. Now we're a forever family, right?" "Right," Lauren confirmed, brushing hair from Emma's face. "A forever family." "I love you both," Emma mumbled, already drifting back to sleep. "My whole forever family." After tucking her in, Lauren and Andrew returned to their room, their shared room now, in every legal and emotional sense. Lauren caught sight of Emma's family drawing, now framed and hanging on the wall. "She always knew," Lauren said, touching the frame gently. "Before we did, she knew we belonged together." Kids see things clearly. They don't overcomplicate love the way adults do. Andrew wrapped his arms around her from behind. She saw that we made each other happy, and that was enough for her. Smart kid. The smartest. They stood there for a long moment, looking at the drawing that had predicted their future before they'd had the courage to imagine it themselves. 3 stick figures holding hands. My family. In the months and years that followed, Lauren would think back to that night in the hotel room often, not with pain or regret, but with gratitude for the strange series of events that had brought her to this life. Marcus's betrayal had felt like the end of everything, but it had actually been the beginning of a career that fulfilled her. The beginning of a family that chose her as much as she chose them. The beginning of a love story that started with a wrong room number and grew into something neither of them could have planned or predicted. Emma grew up confident and curious, her science fair projects evolving from volcanoes to robotics to marine biology. She never forgot Sarah. Andrew made sure of that, sharing stories and keeping her memory alive, but she had no hesitation calling Lauren her mom when people asked. Coal Industries thrived under Andrew's leadership, with Lauren's strategic consulting division becoming one of the most profitable arms of the company. They proved that personal relationships and professional excellence could coexist when handled with integrity and clear boundaries. And on quiet evenings, when Emma was asleep and the house was peaceful, Andrew and Lauren would sit on the back porch swing, watching the stars and marveling at how a single night, a single moment of staying instead of leaving, of honesty instead of pretense, had changed the trajectory of their lives. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd left that night?" Andrew asked once. "Sometimes. But then I remember that you didn't leave. You stayed, and that made all the difference. I almost didn't. I had my hand on the door handle, ready to walk out and find my actual room." "What stopped you?" "Your eyes, the hope in them, mixed with so much pain. I couldn't leave you alone with that." He pulled her closer. "Best decision I ever made." "Second best?" Lauren corrected. "The best was asking me to marry you." "Fair point." Years later, when people asked how they met, they'd smile and say it was a case of mistaken identity, wrong room, right person, perfect timing. They talk about fate and coincidence and the beautiful accidents that shape our lives. But the truth was simpler and more profound than that. They'd both been broken in different ways, both trying to survive their respective griefs. They'd found each other in a moment of vulnerability and chosen to be brave, to stay, to listen, to open their hearts one more time despite the risk. And that bravery had given them everything. A love that honored the past while building toward the future. A family that blended loss and hope into something whole and beautiful. A partnership that proved vulnerability was strength and that asking for help was the bravest thing you could do. Lauren had walked into that hotel room convinced she was too much, too broken, too flawed to be loved. She'd walked out, eventually, knowing she was exactly enough. Andrew had walked into the wrong room carrying 3 years of grief and guilt. He'd walked out remembering that his heart could hold both sorrow and joy, both Sarah's memory and Lauren's love. They'd both been looking for something that night, even if they didn't know it. And in the most unexpected way possible, they'd found each other. Years later, standing on that same back porch watching Emma, now a teenager, explain her latest science project to her younger siblings, Lauren felt Andrew's hand slip into hers. "No regrets?" he asked, the same question he'd asked countless times over the years. "Not a single one," she answered, the same answer she always gave, because it was true. Every step that had led her to that hotel room, every moment of pain and uncertainty, every choice to be brave instead of safe, it had all been worth it. She'd found her family, she'd found her home, she'd found herself. And it had all started with a stranger walking through the wrong door. The right stranger. The right door. The right moment. Perfect timing, after all.